another quick update on the BMW R100CS, and sorry it's been a couple of weeks since I uploaded the video, running up to Christmas, crazy times, but I thought I'd jump in the garage and just show you guys what's going on with the bike and where the project is currently at. And as you can see, looking behind me, yeah, we're very much in project mode. I'm actually surprised at how quickly all this has happened, because it was only a couple of weeks ago when I was out and about riding this bike, having a good time on it. You know, it's a perfectly serviceable bike. There's nothing hugely wrong with it. There were a couple of issues, but nothing massively wrong with it. But I kind of always knew that this is where it would end up. And I suppose these old bikes are a little bit like owning an old house. You know, you spot a little bit of plaster coming off the wall somewhere and you poke at it and you think, well, I wonder what's behind there. And the next thing you know, half the house has come down. Similar story, I think, with this bike. But I kind of knew what I was getting into, and here we are. So we'll do a quick walk around the bike. I'll show you where it's all at. I'll show you what's going on, show you some of the new parts that are, due to go on the bike soon, once we get to that stage. And we'll talk about what's left to do in the kind of current teardown phase, if you like. So the first thing that you'll notice is that all of the paint, the front fairing, mudguard, rear cowl and all that, that's all gone. And it's gone off to a company called Ace Classics to get repainted. Now, when I got this bike, it was done in a kind of homage to the R90S, really nice copy of the TT paint scheme, which is like a black that smokes out into silver. It wasn't particularly well done. It was a little bit of a DIY job. It looked okay, but two things. One, I wanted better quality paint, and two, this is not an R90S. I know whoever had it before clearly wanted an R90S homage, but I want this to be an R100CS. That's what it is. So we're going back to that color scheme, which is a pure deep gloss black with nothing more and nothing less than a gold pinstripe on all the extremities around the tank, the mudguard and the rear cowl and all that stuff. And I tell you what, creatively, that was a tough call to make, because when you're spending that much money on paint, the kind of instinct is to go crazy. Oh, let's come up with something bespoke, something nobody's ever seen before. So kind of sticking to going just to black, yeah, that was a bit of discipline needed there, to say the least. So anyway, that's all happening. It's probably going to take about 8 weeks or something like that before it comes back, because we've got the Christmas break and all that kind of stuff. So it's not going to happen anytime soon, but it is all off there, currently getting prepped and ready for paint. So that gives me a little bit of time to sort out everything else, which has been fun. Getting this front fairing off, that was a huge amount of fun, because it's made of fiberglass, and the way to get it off is to kind of pry it off over these stalks here. And you just know full well, a couple of extra millimeters either way, dollars to donuts, you'll crack it, and that would be hundreds of pounds. But thankfully managed to get it off, so I'm already having cold sweats about getting that back on. I've got a few more bits and pieces to do in terms of the kind of tear down, if you like. I want to get this top yoke off, and I want to get that powder coated. I want to get these headlight brackets off. I want to get those stripped and powder coated. This instrument panel in here, which you can see is badly rusted, I want to get that blasted and powder coated as well. When I got behind that little crash pad and started looking at what was going on behind here, it was all a little bit of a mess. You can start to see the 41 years for sure. So getting all this off is a priority. The reason I haven't done it yet is because of this top nut. I don't have a 36mm socket that can do that on me. So I've had to order a special flat spanner that I can put down over there and take that off. You can't do it with a normal socket, because you also need to use the same socket or spanner for these. The kind of fork cap nuts, which are very, very flat. So as you can see here, actually, somebody's rounded those off nicely, so hopefully you can still get it off. But if you try to use a normal socket, you'll just skid over those and do what that person's done. So hopefully it will come off all right. The other issue with this is that is about 80 foot-pounds of torque to tighten that. And when you do it, you don't want to be putting pressure on the stopper. I'll cover myself in grease. You don't want to be putting pressure on that stopper and twisting, because you'll just twist all the forks out of alignment. So I need to probably put the bar brackets back on, put a handlebar through there, use that as a torque relief, and then Hopefully I can crack it whilst keeping the forks away from the stopper. So that's got to happen though. That's going to turn up in the next couple of days. Fun times. Let's go over here and have a look at everything else. So the wheel's off, all the brakes have been taken off as well, the front brakes, and you can see they're over here on the bench. So the calipers have been completely stripped, and I'll tell you what, that was fun getting those pistons out of there. I don't have compressed air in this garage, so I had to jam in a socket and an Allen key and just kind of twist it out, you know, the usual. It's okay as long as you're just putting tools on the inside of the piston and twisting. It's when you start seeing people gouging the outside of the pistons with screwdrivers and things, that's just terminal, don't do that. But regardless of all that, even though I got them out in the right way, or a way, I've actually got new pistons going in as well. So these are the piston kits, these are the seal kits. So the brake's going to get completely rebuilt. I've even got a new brake master cylinder, fluid pot maybe, yeah, all right, it's a fluid pot. Got a new one of those, the other one was all stained up. This is the brake master cylinder, so that's off the bike, that's been taken apart. Even the pumps come out of it. I've got a new pump. I just thought of all this stuff, you know, it's probably 41 years old. I'd rather just spend the few quid and put new stuff in it. Why not? All of the switchgear that you can see here, well, the control, should I say, or the housing for the controls. My terminology is all over the place today, sorry, I need more coffee. All of these perches, clamps, whatever you want to call them, are going to go off and get Cerakoted. Now the reason I've chosen to go with Cerakoting rather than powder coating for these parts is, one, because of all the kind of fine tolerances to get them back on the bars properly without causing issues, especially things like lever housings and all that. You know, powder coat's about 1 millimeter thick, so it can cause some issues. But also with Cerakote, because it's only about 12 microns thick, really, really thin, you get to preserve all of this nice detail and kind of patina, if you like, underneath the coating. So here where we've got the BMW logo, it even says made in West Germany. I mean, West Germany doesn't even exist anymore. So this is fun stuff to keep visible. I think if you powder coated that, you just gloss over the whole thing. So that's also going to go off. That is the master cylinder. That's going to get stripped and Cerakoted. Over here we've got the throttle assembly, which again has been stripped and coated. And I want to say a massive thank you to whoever had this bike before me for using lashings of super glue on the Oxford hot grips that are on this bike. It only took me about an hour to get those off, so yeah, cheers for that. But anyway, those hot grips are gone, didn't like them. Not really a fan of hot grips. And also I don't entirely trust the amount of power that they pull, especially on old bikes like this. So we're going back to the original style. I don't think these are BMW parts, but original style Beamer grips. I'll just have to have cold hands. Elsewhere, we're dancing around all over the place here, aren't we? But back to the brakes. So these are the original discs that came off the bike. As you can see, they're a little bit scored up. And one of these discs, I think it's actually the left-hand disc, is, I believe it's warped because I was getting some pulsing through the lever. So they're off, and going on in due course will be a set of these. These are the EBC ProLite discs, and the key difference between these and the stock discs, this is a solid disc, so it connects solid to the carrier hub, and get that back in there, and these are floating. So you can see here that the outer disc, which is the friction surface, is not physically connected to the main hub. It's actually connected via these little bobbins. And the reason for that is just better heat management. So this little air gap here just makes it much more efficient at shedding off heat. And also there's a little tiny bit of flex in here as well. You can't really feel it, but you know, when you're clamping with the pads, it just kind of self-centers a little bit more effectively than a solid disc. That's the idea anyway. These are the new pads that are going to go in. I don't know if I can find the old pads, but let's see. Yeah, I think they're in here. So this whole box is just full of old stuff. But have a look at these pads. Yeah, so that's the pad that came off the bike, and as you can see, it's a little bit chipped up and quite heavily scored as well, and just serves as a good reminder really to check these things. Even if you buy a bike that's like a year old, just have a look at the pads, because you never know what kind of condition they're in. Whoever had these before clearly likes a bit of the old copper grease, smothered it all over the back of the pads. Needless to say, I couldn't see anywhere on the EBC website that recommends doing that, so I won't. Anyway, outside of all that, we've got new kind of stainless steel stuff for a lot of the parts that are going back on. So these are the retaining pins and all that for the pads. This here is a new neutral switch, because I've still got to sort out that leak. We've got oil pouring out of the, well, not pouring out, but weeping out of the transmission, and it's coming from this neutral switch. I think it's kind of a bit of a weak design, these neutral switches, because if these kind of plastic components start to fail, then oil can just get through there. So I think the trick is, a lot of people go over this with like a JB Weld or an epoxy or something like that and just coat the whole thing, just to give it a barrier, if you like, to stop that happening. So there you go. That is where we're currently at. In terms of other things, you know, with these bikes, there's always that kind of rabbit hole, isn't there, of, you know, do I just drop the engine? Do I start taking the subframe off and all that? Do I go get it all vapor blasted and everything? I don't really think it needs it. If you look at the subframe, that's all in fairly good nick. The frame's got a little bit of surface rust here at the top, but I don't really think that's screaming to be sorted out immediately. I think that's kind of okay. So yeah, I mean, I think I'll probably keep the bike as one piece as much as I possibly can, regardless of all the bits that have come off. But you know, the working parts can probably stay together. I don't think we're going to drop the engine and all that, if that makes any sense. Over here, this is a part that I've kind of already rebuilt. When I got the bike, this part was all cracked and completely ruined. So this is new. We've put the clocks and the voltmeter back in there. And as I was saying in one of my other videos, I think the little knob to set the time on the clock, which I think just goes in there where I'm pointing to, has come out. So I can't change the time, but I might have to kind of fashion something together to do that. Elsewhere on the bike, you know, I'm keen to kind of keep some of its signs of aging. You know, I could go and change things like this little chrome ring here, which is a little bit scratched up. Yes, I could probably get new headers for the exhausts. I could do all these things. I could polish up these carbs until they're completely shiny. I could put red ignition leads on it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try and keep it looking as, you know, old as it needs to look without looking tatty, if that makes any sense. So there you go. That's the update. Next time you see me, I'll probably have all these parts boxed up and sent off, ready for the various kind of paintings and coatings that they're going to get. And I'll probably make another video as I'm starting to put stuff back together. I reckon we'll be back on the road about February time, hopefully, so just in time for spring. And as I said, the whole ambition of this bike is to get out and do some tours, so really looking forward to that. Anyway, thank you for watching. Sorry for rabbiting on for so long, but there's been a lot happening. I'm now covered in grease again. Every time I get close to this bike, I end up with black hands. Anyway, that's it for now. Until the next one, ride safe.